So this is the spinning bucket balls experiment. Now, you're going to need a bucket. As you can see here, I've got quite a large bucket. You could actually use a smaller bucket that you might see on the beach where children play and have a bucket and spade. That's a good idea to use that as well, particularly if you're a smaller person. But I'm going to use this for now. So here's the bucket. First thing I want you to do is just give it a bit of a swing to make sure you can swing it around. So that's the first thing I want you to do. So just swing it around, just to make sure you can do that. So the bucket stays in that angle, okay? Okay, so remember, you want to make sure you've got lots of room, so you don't want to bash anything with this one. That's another reason why we're outside. You'll see here, I've got some ping pong balls. First thing I want you to do is just take any one you want, drop it in, and do the same thing as you saw me doing then, and see what happens to the ping pong ball. So same thing again, I'm not going to do it, same thing again, spin it around and see what happens, okay? Then I want you to take the rest of the balls and put those in and see what happens. I won't do it now, I want you to do it first, okay? Spin it around in a similar way to what I just showed you. Lastly, I want you to take a glass of water and pour the water in the bucket. I won't do it now, so I want you to do it first. Pour it in, so you'll have the water and the balls in there, and do the same thing. Good luck. So, assuming you didn't get bashed on the head by a load of ping pong balls and drenched with the water, let me show you what I do. First one. So, the ball seal's in there, no glue or anything, it's staying in there on its own. Let's try the rest. So, they all stay in there as well. Let's try the water. That's where the fun can start. Of course, why don't we go for broke? Let's put the containers in as well. I would put the table in, but I don't think it'll fit. Okay. So, why is it that when you were flinging the bucket around, and let's just show you one more time, you can probably hear it rattling around in there, all the stuff, how come nothing came out? Why did it stay in the bucket? Well, think about it. As I'm whizzing it around like that, I'm flinging the bucket around and around, and what happens is I generate a force, I make a force by spinning the bucket. And everything that's in the bottom of the bucket right now, the little balls and the water, I took the glass and the bowl out, but the water and the little balls are being flung outwards. So in other words, they're being flung out towards the bottom of the bucket. And that's happening all the time, they're being flung outwards. Now that flinging out force has actually got a name. We call it a centrifugal effect. Some people call it a centrifugal force, but we've got to be careful because it's not really a force on its own. I'm making it happen by the way I spin that bucket round. Some scientists actually call it a pseudo force because it's not a real force. So you will read about it as centrifugal force, centrifugal effect, centrifugal force effect sometimes. But it's not really a force on its own. It's only caused by something else happening, and in this case, me rotating it. So we get this centrifugal or flinging outward force, which is flinging the balls and the water into the bottom of the bucket. Of course, there is a force pulling in the opposite direction from my arm. And we call that the centripetal force, because that really is a force. It's being pulled in along my arm. The centripetal force. P for pull, centripetal, and that's pulling in. Okay, so what variables could we try? Other things we could see what would happen if we change them? Well, it's pretty obvious. You could try other things in here. I've already given you a clue by adding in the glass and adding in the bowl. Of course, I did put a glass in. You be sensible. I've done this many times. I knew what was going to happen, remember, so that's why I used the glass. I don't recommend you use glass. Certainly don't recommend anything that's breakable or heavy for you. But try different objects, different things, because maybe the water and these little hollow balls, maybe there's something special about them that I haven't told you, so try those as well. Of course, you could change the amount of water, couldn't you? You could put in lots more. That'd be worth thinking about. Make sure, of course, that your handles on your bucket are very strong, so you can vary the weight safely and sensibly. So always check the bucket to make sure the handles are nice and strong if you're going to go for heavier things. Of course, you could try different buckets, couldn't you? Remember I said right at the start that you could use a children's bucket, something like a bucket and spade you would get kids playing with on the beach. Try one of those. Of course, you must test the handle, make sure they're pretty strong. Usually children's bucket and spades, the bucket has actually got a pretty strong handle because they have to be practically indestructible for kids to play with them, but test it. If you're using a small bucket, you may want to actually attach a bit of rope to it because it might be a bit small for you to hold if you're a grown-up especially, and give it a go with a bit of rope on, but make sure it's a strong bit of rope, well tied, so it's really secure. You don't want that flinging off into anybody. What about the speed that I flung this around? When you saw me doing it, that's how fast I was doing it, roughly. How about if I went really fast, sped it up? Of course, if you're going to speed it up, I'll give you a clue about this one. Make sure your handles really are on firmly and they're very strong. So as fast as you can, see what happens. Of course, the opposite of that is to go very slow. That's going to be more fun. Definitely do it outside if you've got water in there. Go more slowly. There's a clue as to what you might expect to be happening if you go rather more slowly. I'll leave you to figure out a few more things.